especially if I look cuter than any girl does. Like, what's the problem? Like, what's the issue? And I'm out all the time, you know, and like I'm killing a dress and no one else is. Like the girls in the room are not doing it. Like they don't look cute.
If you believe that isn't how you want to run your family, I have no choice but to respect that. But don't pretend as if it isn't an unpopular sentiment.
E.J. Johnson just shook the internet, claiming he looks better than every woman in the room, and people are not happy about it. The son of Magic Johnson is making headlines for flaunting designer dresses, embracing feminine energy, and insisting on they or she pronouns, all while refusing to call himself a woman. And now, D.L. Hughley has weighed in, questioning why so many Hollywood kids are suddenly trans or non-binary. Is it real identity, or is something else at play? The reaction online has been explosive. Women are dragging him, gay influencers are calling him delusional, and even reality stars are poking fun at his over-the-top confidence. EJ's statement isn't just about clothing or pronouns, it's about claiming space and social capital, asserting femininity while sidestepping the struggles women face. And people are noticing. This isn't an isolated case. Hollywood is filled with stories of celebrity kids coming out as trans or non-binary, from Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Unioncia to Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck's Finn, and even Jlozemi. Some say it's a result of overprotected fairy tale childhoods, social contagion, or parental influence. Others argue it's attention-seeking or a privilege-driven identity. D.L. Hughley and Cat Williams aren't holding back, calling out parents for making radical decisions too early and questioning whether this trend is about fame, status, or social programming. So, what's really going on in Hollywood? Are these kids expressing themselves, or is this a bigger cultural experiment? E.J. Johnson's bold confidence has sparked one of the hottest debates online, and everyone has an opinion. Where do you stand? E.J. Johnson's recent statements have set social media on fire, and it all started when he openly discussed his unique approach to gender, identity, and attraction. In an interview with Carlos King, EJ made it clear that he prefers feminine pronouns like they or she and asked people to avoid calling him he, man, or son. But here's where things get complicated. EJ is not identifying as a woman and does not want to be called a trans woman. He's very much himself, a deeply feminine being who wants to express that femininity through fashion, confidence, and presence, without taking on the societal identity of being female. EJ explained how freeing it was to set boundaries even with his parents, Magic and Cookie Johnson, about pronouns. He said, "Even on my birthday in June, I told them, we're not doing he, we're not doing man, we're not doing gay." Like, it was very freeing. Like, even son, I was like, the world tried to give me that label. Magan's a son. I was like, well, that's dead now. We're doing Miss Thing. We're not doing that either. But the controversy deepened when EJ admitted he does not date gay men. He prefers straight men or men with strong masculine energy. He clarified that the spaces he frequents are typically those where straight men are, explaining that gay clubs and typical gay spaces don't attract the kind of men he's interested in. Then came the statement that sparked the most debate. EJ claimed that no matter which room he's in, he looks better than every woman there. Like, even as a kid, I would be told, you can't wear skirts. And I was like, well, why not? Especially if I look cuter than any girl does. Like, what's the problem? What's the issue? This remark caused widespread backlash. Critics argue that EJ's comments are problematic because they diminish women while allowing him to enjoy the privileges of femininity without enduring the struggles women face in society. Wearing designer clothes, enjoying attention, and asserting femininity while not identifying as female creates a perception that being a woman is a costume, not a lived experience. Online reactions were immediate and intense. Many women called out EJ for belittling women to justify his confidence. One ex-user wrote, "The way y'all don't say nothing." When gay men ish on women daily, but want people to watch their tone about a Bigfoot oversized crossdresser. Others criticized the tone of his statements, calling him delusional for claiming he's always the baddest in the room. Prominent influencers like Landon Romano also weighed in, emphasizing that competition with women is unnecessary and misplaced. Bobby Lights, a popular gay reality star, took a different approach by critiquing EJ's aesthetic. He suggested that EJ presents like Republican white woman in her mid-40s with a vegan gluten-free chip on her shoulder, highlighting the disconnect between EJ's presentation and community expectations. Beyond the individual controversy, EJ's situation is part of a larger trend in Hollywood. Many celebrity children are coming out as trans or non-binary. Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union's child, Zia, publicly identified as trans at age 3. Marlon Wayans' child transitioned from Amai to Kai in 2023. Other high-profile examples include Eddie Murphy's trans son, J.Lo's non-binary daughter Emmy, and Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck's child, Finn, formerly Serafina. This trend has led to various theories about why so many celebrity kids are trans or non-binary. Some suggest it stems from overprotected Disney fairy tale childhoods, where transitioning is a way to pause or manage the pressures of growing up. Others point to social contagion, where children in close-knit friend groups adopt similar identities for belonging and validation. Emotional dynamics, parental influence, and privilege also play significant roles. Some argue that transitioning allows celebrity children to adopt a marginalized identity, gaining social credibility and attention they might not otherwise receive. DL Hughley and Cat Williams have voiced strong opinions about this trend. DL questioned whether children as young as 3 can truly understand what it means to be transgender, highlighting the role parents play in exposing children to these concepts. Cat Williams even suggested that some of these decisions are part of Hollywood rituals or sacrifices made in the pursuit of fame and money. E.J. Johnson's case exemplifies the tension between personal expression and social perception. While E.J. is confident in his identity and appearance, many observers see his statements as dismissive of women's experiences and privileges. The debate isn't just about clothing or pronouns, it's about the social dynamics of gender, identity, and the influence of wealth and celebrity status on the next generation. The conversation also extends to the LGBTQ+ community. While some see EJ's expression as valid, others criticize him for competing with women and failing to fully integrate into queer spaces. The combination of privilege, aesthetic presentation, and boundary setting around pronouns and dating preferences makes EJ's case a lightning rod for discussion about identity, social capital, and public perception. In summary, EJ Johnson is at the center of one of the most heated cultural debates online. His bold statements about gender, pronouns, dating, and self-presentation have triggered a wave of criticism, conversation, and controversy. Celebrity children are increasingly visible as trans or non-binary, raising questions about parental influence, social trends, and identity politics. As the debate continues, E.J. Johnson's confidence and unapologetic stance ensure that he remains a figure that both fascinates and frustrates audiences worldwide. As we pick up the conversation, the focus shifts to commentary from high-profile comedians and cultural critics like DL Hughley and Cat Williams, who have been vocal about the increasing number of celebrity children coming out as trans or non-binary. DL Hughley, in particular, has made headlines for questioning whether very young children can truly understand gender identity or if parents are playing an outsized role in shaping these decisions. DL points out that when children as young as 3 or 4 express a desire to transition, it raises questions about the influence of parents and the broader Hollywood environment. He references Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, whose child Zia was reportedly aware of their gender identity at age 3. DL argues that a child that young doesn't have the cognitive or emotional development to fully understand what being transgender entails. To me, you're not grown until you leave my house. If you still need permission to go to the movies, then you're not ready to make life-altering decisions about gender, DL said. Similarly, Cat Williams has taken a more provocative stance. He suggests that the trend of celebrity children identifying as trans or non-binary may be part of a larger pattern in Hollywood, almost like a ritual or necessary sacrifice for fame, wealth, or social capital. According to him, 20 years ago, the term transgender was relatively rare and not a mainstream identity, but now it has become far more common among the children of celebrities. Kat implies that there's a systematic aspect to this phenomenon, suggesting that it isn't entirely organic, but influenced by status, privilege, and access to elite social circles. Part of the conversation centers on the societal privileges these children enjoy. Many of these kids, like E.J. Johnson, have access to designer clothes, cosmetic procedures, and a platform that allows them to present themselves exactly how they want. They can explore aspects of femininity or masculinity without facing the everyday risks and struggles that most women or marginalized people face. For instance, EJ can assert that he looks better than every woman in the room, wear a designer dress, and command attention, all while not identifying as a woman and avoiding the systemic barriers that real women encounter. This has sparked criticism from multiple fronts. Women's rights advocates argue that statements like EJ's reinforce misogynistic ideas by framing femininity as a performance rather than lived experience. Critics claim that this creates an environment where gender expression can be commodified and flaunted without any of the social or political consequences that actual women face. Meanwhile, members of the LGBTQ+ community have been split. Some see EJ's expression as valid self-expression, but others argue that it competes with and diminishes women, positioning masculinity and femininity in a hierarchical framework that alienates other members of the queer community. Prominent voices have joined the debate. Landon Romano, a well-known gay influencer, criticized EJ for framing himself as the baddest in the room, stating that competition with women is unnecessary and harmful. He emphasized that gender identity and expression should not be used as a tool to assert superiority over others, particularly women. Similarly, Bobby Lights commented on EJ's aesthetic choices, suggesting that EJ presents like Republican white woman in her mid-40s with a vegan gluten-free chip on her shoulder, highlighting the perceived disconnect between his presentation and lived experiences of both women and queer individuals. This controversy cannot be viewed in isolation. It reflects the broader trend in Hollywood. Many celebrities have children who are publicly trans or non-binary. Beyond Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, examples include Eddie Murphy, whose daughter transitioned into a trans man, J.Lo, whose daughter Emmy identifies as non-binary, Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck's child Finn, formerly Serafina, and even high-profile families like Jamie Lee Curtis and Charlize Theron. Each case has sparked discussions about parenting, societal influence, and identity formation in environments of wealth and privilege. Several theories attempt to explain this trend. One suggests that the overprotected, idealized childhoods common among celebrities create a pressure point at puberty, where children may use transitioning as a way to pause or control the physical and emotional challenges of growing up. Another theory centers on social contagion. Celebrity children often run in tight-knit social circles, many of whom are neurodivergent or creatively inclined. When one child comes out, the rest of the group may follow, not necessarily due to individual identity, but as a form of social alignment and belonging. A related argument points to parental influence. Critics like D.L. Hughley contend that emotionally distant or highly controlling parents may shape a child's decisions about gender as a way to assert control or gain attention. In Hollywood, these dynamics are magnified by public scrutiny, wealth, and the constant media spotlight. Some children may feel pressure to adopt identities that bring validation and social attention, effectively creating a system where identity becomes performative. Another theory touches on guilt and privilege. Many celebrity children are taught to feel remorse or responsibility for their wealth, race, or social position. Transitioning or identifying as marginalized can offer an avenue for authenticity, empathy, or social capital, essentially allowing them to inhabit a different societal narrative that resonates with broader social justice ideals. This can be both empowering and controversial, as critics question whether these choices are truly reflective of personal identity or influenced by societal optics and attention. E.J. Johnson's public persona exemplifies the tensions inherent in these debates. On one hand, he embodies confidence, fashion, and unapologetic self-expression. On the other, his statements have generated backlash for belittling women, rejecting certain community spaces, and navigating identity with the protective buffer of wealth and fame. By claiming superiority in aesthetics while refusing to identify as a woman, critics argue that EJ is navigating femininity as a privilege rather than a lived reality, and that this sends problematic messages about gender identity and respect. At the same time, the cultural conversation extends beyond Hollywood. The visibility of these celebrity children sparks debates about gender, parenting, societal norms, and the influence of fame. Questions arise. How much should parents influence their child's understanding of identity? At what age should children make decisions about gender? Are societal trends creating an environment where transitioning becomes a status symbol or performance? These discussions are complex, nuanced, and unlikely to be resolved quickly, but they underscore the intersection of identity, privilege, and cultural influence. Finally, the conversation about E.J. Johnson, D.L. Hughley, and the Hollywood trans kids controversy highlights broader societal tensions. It reflects a collision between individual self-expression, generational shifts in understanding gender, and long-standing issues related to privilege, visibility, and community norms. As debates rage online, one thing is clear: these discussions are far from over. Whether you view EJ's expression as brave, misguided, or a reflection of societal trends, the conversation touches on identity, power, and the evolving landscape of fame in modern culture. As this story continues to unfold, audiences, influencers, and cultural commentators will be watching closely. The reactions of D.L. Hughley, Cat Williams, and the larger community illustrate just how high the stakes are when personal identity intersects with public life. And while social media amplifies every opinion, the core issues remain deeply human: understanding identity, navigating privilege, and grappling with how we validate or challenge the next generation of influential voices. Picking up where we left off, the conversation around E.J. Johnson's statements has sparked a major debate in Hollywood and beyond. E.J.'s bold claims about looking better than women in any room, his selective pronouns, and his preference for straight men have not only caused backlash online, but have also drawn commentary from major figures like D.L. Hughley and Cat Williams, who question why so many celebrity kids are identifying as trans or non-binary. D.L. Hughley's main argument is centered on the role of parents in these decisions. He argues that very young children, such as Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union's child Zia, who reportedly knew they were transgender at age 3, simply don't have the cognitive capacity to fully grasp gender identity on their own. D.L. believes that parents have a huge influence in shaping these early expressions of identity. According to him, children that young are highly impressionable, and decisions about transitioning should be carefully guided, especially when medical procedures may be involved before the child reaches adulthood. Cat Williams takes an even bolder stance, suggesting that the growing trend of celebrity children identifying as trans or non-binary could be part of a larger pattern in Hollywood. He argues that it's not entirely organic, but may be influenced by societal pressures, privilege, and even status rituals. 20 years ago, the word transgender was rare in mainstream culture, but now it's far more common among the children of celebrities. According to Cat, this could be connected to the desire for fame, visibility, and social capital, and it raises questions about whether these choices are entirely self-motivated or influenced by external factors. This debate highlights the role of privilege in these children's experiences. E.J. Johnson, for instance, has access to high-end fashion, cosmetic procedures, and platforms that allow him to assert his femininity without facing the same societal consequences that most women do. He can claim that he looks better than every woman in the room, wear designer dresses, and receive attention, all while not identifying as a woman. Critics argue that this presents femininity as a performance, a status symbol, or a costume rather than a lived experience. The response from women's rights advocates has been particularly critical. They argue that statements like EJ's belittle the experiences of real women who navigate systemic barriers, misogyny, and societal expectations daily. By positioning himself as superior in aesthetics without acknowledging the struggles that come with womanhood, EJ inadvertently reinforces a form of privilege that many find troubling. Some have described it as misogyny in drag, highlighting the tension between self-expression and societal responsibility. Meanwhile, the LGBTQ+ community has had mixed reactions. Some support EJ's right to self-expression, while others criticize him for framing his identity in a way that competes with or diminishes women. Influencers like Landon Romano have called EJ delusional for claiming to be the baddest in the room, arguing that such comparisons are unnecessary and harmful. Similarly, Bobby Lights criticized EJ's aesthetic, stating that he presents like a Republican white woman in her mid-40s with a vegan gluten-free chip on her shoulder, emphasizing the disconnect between appearance and lived experience. Beyond individual commentary, this controversy reflects a broader trend in Hollywood, where numerous celebrities have children who are publicly trans or non-binary. Examples include Eddie Murphy, whose daughter transitioned into a trans man, Jennifer Lopez, whose daughter Emmy identifies as non-binary, Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck's child Finn, formerly Serafina, and Jamie Lee Curtis's child. Each of these cases has sparked conversations about parenting, identity, and societal influence in elite circles. Several theories have emerged to explain this phenomenon. One suggests that overprotected childhoods common among celebrities create an environment where children may use transitioning as a way to pause or manage the pressures of growing up. Another theory points to social contagion. Children in tight-knit social circles may follow one another's lead when it comes to identity exploration. In some cases, this may reflect group dynamics and belonging rather than purely individual identity. Parental influence is also central to this debate. D.L. Hughley and others argue that emotionally distant or highly controlling parents can shape a child's gender identity decisions, sometimes using them as a form of attention or validation. In Hollywood, these dynamics are amplified by public scrutiny and media coverage. Children of celebrities are often under constant observation, and coming out as trans or non-binary can attract admiration and attention, which may unintentionally create incentives for such expressions. Another factor is privilege and guilt. Celebrity children may be taught to feel responsibility for their wealth or social status. Adopting a trans or marginalized identity can allow them to navigate the world in a way that feels authentic, empathetic, or socially responsible. Critics argue that this can sometimes turn identity into a performance, where recognition and admiration take precedence over lived experiences. E.J. Johnson embodies the complexities of this debate. On one hand, he represents confidence, fashion, and unapologetic self-expression. On the other, his statements, claiming superiority in appearance, selectively rejecting certain pronouns, and asserting he doesn't date gay men, have drawn criticism from multiple communities. By claiming the privileges of femininity without identifying as a woman, EJ's presentation highlights the tension between self-expression, public perception, and societal responsibility. The controversy also raises broader questions about gender, identity, and culture. How much influence should parents have in shaping a child's understanding of gender? At what age should children make irreversible decisions about their bodies? Are social trends and visibility creating an environment where transitioning is viewed as a performance or statement rather than a reflection of personal identity? These questions are not easily answered, but they underscore the complexity of identity formation in environments of fame and privilege. Moreover, the reactions to E.J. Johnson reflect societal tensions around gender and privilege. While he has the freedom to explore and express femininity, critics argue that it comes at the expense of authentic representation of women's experiences. The conversation exposes the intersection of wealth, fame, and identity, highlighting how public platforms can amplify personal expression, but also scrutiny and controversy. As this debate continues, it's clear that discussions about Hollywood trans kids, parental influence, and societal impact are far from over. D.L. Hughley and Cat Williams represent a segment of the population questioning trends they perceive as influenced by privilege and performance. Meanwhile, children like E.J. Johnson are navigating self-expression in a world where every statement and action is scrutinized, debated, and amplified online. The key takeaway is that identity, privilege, and social influence intersect in complex ways. E.J. Johnson's statements and the reactions they provoke illustrate how gender, appearance, and social capital can create both empowerment and controversy. For audiences, influencers, and cultural critics, these debates highlight the challenges of navigating personal expression within the pressures of fame, public perception, and societal expectations. Ultimately, E.J. Johnson's journey, the commentary from D.L. Hughley and Cat Williams, and the broader trend of celebrity trans kids spark necessary conversations about identity, privilege, and the influence of environment on personal expression. Whether one views these developments as positive, problematic, or simply a reflection of modern society, they remain a focal point for cultural discussion, online debate, and media analysis.